Okay, so hello guys and welcome to this video. Now in this video we're going to be discussing the keyboard. So let's get into it. Okay, so when we think of the keyboard, guys, so with the keyboard there's many different things to know. So with the keyboard, I'll say the most basic thing to know is that they come in different sizes. So with a keyboard you can find 61 key sizes, then the one above that is 76 key, and then the one above that is 88 key. So the keyboard I have, which you would be seeing in the latter videos, is an 88 key keyboard. So it's it's quite a big keyboard, but depending on what you're looking for will determine the keyboard that you go and pick up. So I'll say for us that are beginning how to, or just learning how to play the keyboard, the best one to start off with is a 61 key, because it does the job. So on the keyboard, there's many different features. So there's a volume control, there's a power control, there's a socket around the back to plug in the power, there will be a sustain port, and so on and so forth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two keyboards. So the first one I'm going to show you is a more basic or more a more common layout to a keyboard, and then the one I'm going to show you next is the one that I have, because the layout of my keyboard, there's some differences between the keyboard I'm going to show you and my one, but I'm just going to show you both of them so that you can see some of the variations in keyboard. So yeah, that's what I'm going to show you now. So yeah, let's go to the first one. Okay, so this is like an everyday kind of keyboard. So off the bat, we can see that on this kind of keyboard there's two speakers, one right here and one right there. So on the very expensive keyboards, they don't have speakers. So what they have is you have to plug the keyboard into like either some speakers or something like that. But yeah, let's delve deeper into what we have here. So let's go. Okay, so on this left side of the keyboard, so the first thing we have is the power button to turn on and off the keyboard. Next we have a big volume button, obviously, so they can get some sound out of the keyboard. And then there's some other buttons, so one is called function, metronome, and so on. But depending on the keyboard you have, each button will do something different. So yeah, one good thing is that when you get a keyboard, it's a good thing to look at the user manual to discover what each button does, so that you can make the most out of the keyboard that you have. Now let's go and look at the right section. Okay, so here on the right side of the keyboard we have a number pad here. So let's say you know the exact sound you're looking for. So if it's, let's say, sound number 50, then you use the number pad to go to, you just type 50 in here and it'll take you straight to the sound you're looking for. This helps so that you don't have to be going up by these, because there's a plus and a negative button here. So not that you have to be scrolling up and up for each sound, or down down for each sound. If you just know the number straight away, then you can just type it in and it'll go straight there. And now let's take a look. Oh, actually, before we do that, here's some other buttons. So On these kind of keyboards, it also has some other kind of things. So it has like music you can play along to and so on. So that's where you can either choose whether you want to hear a voice, so that's like a keyboard sound in here, or you want to go into a certain style of music. So that's when it will play. The keyboard has certain songs in its bank that it can play, and then you just kind of play along to it. Now let's take a look at the center. Okay, so here in the center of the keyboard, the main thing we see is that there's a screen here. So this screen allows you to interact with the keyboard and so on. So you can see what you're doing. If you want to go over a certain function or you want to learn a certain song, it will pop up here on the screen, and then you can just follow it. And then that's basically the middle. Now let's see the back. Okay, so now we're at the back of the keyboard, and let's go into what it's got. Okay, so right here is where you plug the power into the keyboard. Right here. On the expensive keyboards is a much bigger adapter, like a whatever. But yeah, this is where you plug the power into. Here is where you plug the keyboard. So if you want to plug the keyboard into headphones, so this is where you do it through. Or if you want to plug your keyboard into like a soundboard, so a monitor or mixing desk, you use here. And then here is, so if you want to plug your keyboard to a computer, so there's a specific kind of cable you'll use to do that. I'll insert a picture here. Yeah, so that's a cable you use. And then if it has a sustain input, so this is where you plug your sustain pedal. So on some keyboards that are maybe about 50 or 60 pounds, that's brand new, not used. So yeah, the new keyboards that are about 50 or 60 pounds, most of them won't have a sustain input. So most of them will just have a button on the keyboard somewhere that says sustain. So when you press that button, it's like every single note, no matter what, it will sustain. But this is a lot better. And so on keyboards that are maybe about from £100 and up, it will have a sustain input. So this allows you to have greater control over what you're doing. And yeah, I'll insert a picture of a sustain pedal now. So yeah, that's a lot better. So that's the back of the keyboard. And yeah, that's this very cheap keyboard. So yeah, that's the first keyboard. As you can see, it was is a very basic keyboard, and you know, most keyboards, basic and even not so basic, that are, you know, climbing up the ladder towards professional quality, that's the layout they have. So now I'm going to show you my keyboard so you can see how this one is laid out a little differently. So yeah, let's take a look. Okay, so guys, this is the second keyboard. So this is my personal keyboard. As you can see, well, I don't even know if this is even possible to try and show you the whole thing. But yeah, this keyboard is a very big keyboard. This is a full size 88 key keyboard. So the lowest note, let me let you hear it, A, and then the highest note is all the way here, which is a C. So the way the layout of this keyboard is a bit different to the other one I showed you, is that like here is the section where we control all the sounds, and as you can see, it's labeled grand piano, funk EP, vibraphone, drill organs, nylon guitar, violin, strings, trumpet, and so on. So the way this is different is that the other keyboard, it had like a number pad, if you remember, but here it's just different. It's just the sounds are broken into sections. So as you can see, on grand piano, we have the key sound of a grand piano. If I hit funk EP, then it's like an electric piano. On a vibraphone, if I hit the drill organ, then, and then if I hit nylon guitar, if I hit violin, and so on, if I hit strings, yeah. So that's how that's how the sound section is. And on the other keyboard, it didn't have a dial like this one. So like the other keyboard, right, you could just input the number of sound you want, the exact number. But on this one, when you go into a certain section like grand piano, what you have to do next is you have to I can't get the screen to focus, but what you have to do next is you have to now use this jog dial to go to the exact sound you want, which is a bit inefficient, but anyway, it's okay. Another nice feature about this keyboard as compared to the one I showed you before is that the keys are weighted. So I can't show you on camera the weighting, but the keys are heavier. So, and there's also a pitch bend wheel here. So how does the pitch bend come in handy? I'll show you. So if I press a note and sustain it with the sustain pedal, did you hear that? Yeah, so it just like bends the note a little bit. So now, oh yeah, on here we also have input. So let's say you have a USB and you have some sounds on it. You can just plug the USB into here and play the sounds from there. Now I'm going to show you the back of the keyboard. Okay, so here at the back of the keyboard, we have a number of different inputs. So one of them is for power, like the other keyboard. Here is the input for the sustain pedal. On this keyboard, one nice feature I have is that you can plug in like an auxiliary input. So let's say you have like an iPad, you can plug your iPad into here so you can play stuff from your iPad through it. Here's the USB to computer cable, and there's also like, you see, this is like the new technology of it, and then this is basically the old technology. So you have what you call MIDI cables. So MIDI cables is what you use here, and then to connect it to a computer. But this is the new method of just you having a USB cable. And yeah, you can also plug a microphone in as well. So that's what this port is for. So you can plug an iPad in, or you can plug from like into something else. I don't know exactly what that one is for, but yeah, that's the back of this keyboard as compared to the more simpler keyboard we looked at before. So yeah, cool. Okay, so as you can see from the first keyboard I showed you and my one, there's a bit of difference, especially with how the first one has like a number pad, and then my one doesn't have a number pad. It just has sections for each kind of sound category you're after, and how my one has a pitch bend wheel, and the first one I showed you didn't have one. But anyway, yeah, so that's basically a keyboard. So the first one I showed you, it was a 61 key keyboard. It's not too big, but the one I play, or the one I have, is an 88 key. So I mean, it's very big, very wide, and also significantly heavier. And another thing to note is about the keys. So with different keyboards, you can have different weights on the keys. So on like the very basic keyboards, they won't have any weighting at all. On some keyboards, they will have semi-weighted keys, and then on some keyboards, it has fully weighted keys. So the weight of the key is trying to replicate like an acoustic piano. So like, you know, if let's say you were to go to a fancy place and they have like a big massive grand piano, all these electronic pianos, they put some weighting on the keys to try and replicate the feel of those acoustic pianos and grand pianos. So some are not weighted at all, some are semi-weighted, and the fully weighted ones is the one where it actually tries to replicate fully the acoustic grand pianos and so on. Yeah, that's basically what to note about the keyboard. Yeah, so guys, in the next video we're going to cover the notes on the keyboard, so stay tuned for that, and let's go.